Dan, To Sell is Human, another just huge smash success.
Hey, thanks.
On, first of all, a topic that's near and dear to every growth company, but folks haven't been writing about it recently. Why do you think that's the case?
I think part of it is that sales has changed a lot more in the last 10 years than it did in the previous 100. Mm-hmm. That is, selling today is just qualitatively different from selling even 15 years ago. And I think a lot of the sort of sales training, a lot of the mechanisms that we use to teach people sales haven't quite caught up to that. And the strength that I have as a writer is also a weakness in that I'm coming at it from an outsider's perspective. So it has the vice of having an outsider's perspective, but also the virtue of having fresh eyes.
Yeah, and what I love, right now this genre of kind of psychology type books, what I love is the fact that you've actually brought that science into the sales side.
Right.
And I think what's different, you mentioned, is the fact now that there's a difference in information between the buyer and the seller. Talk a little bit about that.
That's huge. I mean, most of what we know about sales comes from a world of information asymmetry. So, even 15 years ago, if I was selling and you were buying, I had a huge information advantage over you.
Of course.
Buyer beware. Okay? Now, we're more evenly matched. And to me, that's a world of seller beware. Now, as a seller, I'm on notice. Wait a second. This guy has as much information as I do. This guy has a lot of choices. Really important point, this guy can talk back. Yeah. He can tell everybody on Facebook. He can go to his LinkedIn contacts. He can tweet about it. Whoa, wait a second. Now I'm on notice. It's seller beware. And I think that those two things are different in kind, not different in degree.
So as a result, this always be closing, the old ABC, when you had the power as the seller because you had the information, now it's been replaced with you got a new ABC.
Yeah, the new ABCs of attunement, buoyancy, and clarity. This is what the social science tells us are the foundational qualities for effectively moving other people, whether you're selling yourself to a job, whether you're pitching your idea in a meeting, whether you're actually on a sales call. These three foundational qualities, attunement, buoyancy, and clarity, end up being the platform on which people can be much more effective in moving other people in a world of seller beware.
And that's what I love in the book. You've got real specific practical things people can do in each one of those areas that they can learn from your book. But I want to go to something else that you discussed, which is this introvert versus extrovert.
Oh yeah.
And you said, obviously the people we hire and tend to promote all are on that really high extrovert side, but there's this ambivert that...
It's amazing. I mean, I just think that so many of our conversations are, yin-yang, black-white, not too much nuance. And this term ambivert describes people who are somewhat introverted, somewhat extroverted.
Which is most of the population.
Exactly. Most of us are that way. This term has been around since the 1920s, and yet people, it's almost a civil war between introverts and extroverts, when in fact most of us are kind of sort of a little bit of both. And there's some interesting new research out of Wharton showing that ambiverts make the best salespeople. Strong introverts stink, no surprise. Strong extroverts stink. That's the big surprise. But it's the people in the middle, a little bit more calibrated. No one to push, no one to hold back, no one to speak up, no one to shut up.
And so, everyone is in sales.
Whether we like it or not.
Whether we like it or not, and so just be yourself.
At some level, I think that's very good guidance. There's this notion that to be in sales, you have to be this kind of gregarious, glad-hander, back-slapper. And if that's who you are as a human being, that's awesome. Yeah. But if it's not who you are as a human being, don't do it. You're actually better off being the best version of yourself. In part because you're going to do it better. In part because the evidence shows us that ambiverts do better than strong extroverts or strong introverts.
Good. So we're all in sales. Get this book. Learn the techniques. Dan, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.